Good morning. Do you like the way the universe color coordinated the heads on the mic today? See? Shauna had a blue mic with her to go with her blue top, and Greg had an orange mic to match the orange trim on his drum. I got kind of gold trim on my shirt. We got the gold mic, so. All right, divine order. See, divine order is always unfolding everywhere. So we get to talk again about prayer this morning, and wow, how powerful our word is. I talked last time about how prayer does nothing to God. Prayer shifts our own mind. In the scripture in Romans 12:2, it says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. So it's our mind that we are renewing, and how many times when we renew our minds, we do a spiritual mind treatment, we renew our minds and we see the situation differently. We see the condition differently. Everything looks different after we come out of prayer. How many of you have sat with a practitioner or come up front and gotten prayer from a practitioner, and then everything looks different after that? The world looks different after that, right? You know, because we're so sometimes caught in the condition, caught in the situation, we can't see a bigger picture. And so when we do spiritual mind treatment, it renews our mind and we're transformed by that renewing. I can't tell you how many times in my life, after a prayer, the shift was not necessarily in the outward condition. The shift was often in how I was looking at the situation, how I was perceiving the situation. So we renew our minds, we begin to look at it differently, and then everything changes. I also have to myself acknowledge Jane because she is doing such great work there in Antelope Valley as the board president, and such a great leader and such a powerful presence there. And I have such a fondness and a great bond I feel with Jane, and I just love as Shauna was just singing what I took in as sort of this powerful song about women, and I just love all these powerful women that are taking leads in spiritual communities, like Barbara Natalia as the board president here, and Jennifer Lapp as the ecclesiastical leader here, and then Reverend Carol Carnes, who will come in, and she's a very powerful leader as well. And I just love that feminine energy really rising up. And it's not that there's anything wrong. A lot of times people will say the masculine energy has kind of ruined things, right? And the masculine, and that's not really true. What it is we've been out of balance, and we're coming back into balance. The feminine energy is rising to now come into balance, so that we're in balance with our masculine and feminine, and that's the ultimate here. And so I'm just really celebrating the rising of the feminine energy. Let's celebrate the rising of the feminine energy. Yes. Yes, I also want to acknowledge the masculine energy, and who better to acknowledge the masculine energy through than to recognize that Doug Bungert is here with us today. We have not seen Doug for a while. Thank you so much, Doug, for being here. Yes. So we're talking about prayer. We're talking about the renewing of our minds, the transformation that takes place through the renewing of our minds. And we're talking about how powerful our word is. So many times we're waiting to see how things are going to turn out, not realizing like we're creating our experience in life. Like right now, you have a new minister coming. Reverend Carol Carnes. How many of you are going, well, I'll see. Let's see how this is going to be. There's a new minister coming in. Let's see how it's going to be. Most of you probably not, because you're such a conscious group here, right? But sometimes we can get into that space where we're like, well, let's see what it's going to be. Well, why let's see what it's going to be? Why not claim what your experience is going to be right now? Why not say to yourself, I'm going to have an amazing experience with our new minister. Let's try that on for size. I'm going to have an amazing experience with our new minister. Absolutely. We get to set the tone. We get to speak our word. We get to create our experience. Our word is so powerful, and it so much transcends conditions. My grandmother, when she was in her 80s, And she lived in somewhat at that time in her life because the neighborhood had shifted and she still wanted to be in this neighborhood. And it was kind of like a rough, in quotes, area when she was living there. And she never did drive. And so she would take one of those shopping carts on a small trip. I would take her when she needed to go for a big trip. But on a small trip, if she needed a few things, she'd take one of those carts to the supermarket and she'd walk, and she had no fear walking through this neighborhood. Zero fear. She's a little lady, 80-some years old. And one day, she told me this story one day about a young man who ran up and grabbed her purse and ran. And so here's my grandmother. My grandmother says one word. She just says, "So?" She yells behind him as he's running away with her purse. She yells behind him, "So?" And I thought that was so powerful in the sense of saying, conditions have no power over me. Like, you have done nothing to me. You have done absolutely nothing to me. She said, "So?" And the young man stopped in his tracks, dropped the purse, looked around at her like shocked, and ran away. And my grandmother walked along, picked up her purse. This is how powerful we are. My grandmother was into Unity, which is sort of a sister teaching of Science of Mind. And she read the Daily Word every day. And she was a very powerful influence without me knowing it at the time, because she was modeling this as I was growing up, but I had no idea. It was just my grandmother, and this is just who she was. But this is how powerful we are, that we can speak our word, and sometimes it's just one word. What's the word of power that would transform your life today? What's the way of looking at something differently that would transform your life today? This is the simple truth of this teaching we're in. That one word could transform our lives. Shifting from "I am helpless" to "I am powerful" could change our life right here and right now. This reading, part of the reading that was done earlier, said that the mental attitude of the practitioner, and the practitioner is you all right here. It doesn't say the licensed practitioner. This applies to the licensed practitioners as well. But the practitioner are those who are practicing the science of mind. So the mental attitude, Ernest Holmes says, of the practitioner is one of denial toward every false condition that opposes the principle of life as one of absolute perfection. So we're denying, we're speaking powerfully that this condition, like my grandmother did, that this condition has no power over me. This situation has no power over me. What we do is we start with the truth. Oftentimes, we're in the condition and we're trying to get from the condition to the truth. That's really hard, especially if the condition is really a good condition. If it's really like a twisted up good, I have people come to me in counseling and I'm sitting there, and if I really start to follow, like some people are really good storytellers, so if I really start to listen to the story and the person's weaving the story, I'll be like, whoa, yeah, you got a problem. You better go get some help. I don't know what we're going to do here. That's the truth. If I were really to stay with the story and follow the story, I'd be like, yeah, all right, well, you're right. That's some really difficult stuff. Good luck with that. Let me know how that turns out, okay? But if we start from the truth, perfect God, this is what Ernest Holmes said, perfect God, perfect person, perfect being. We start with that. So we never get mired in the confusion about the condition, because we start with perfect God, perfect person, perfect being. Now we reason from there to show why this condition has no power. Why this situation has no power. If all is perfect, then how could anything be wrong? So we start from the truth. So starting from the truth, we never go into confusion. If we start from the condition, we start from confusion and usually hardly get out of confusion, right? And we go to someone for prayer, which is a good thing, and we're like, whoa, I'm way down in the story. And then the one you're coming to for prayer has to start with the truth. When I first became a practitioner, very newly as a practitioner, I was probably only a practitioner for a week or two. And I was standing outside, it was in the summertime, and at East Bay Church in Oakland where I came through, and I was standing outside, and someone approached me. And they said, I'm like one day away from becoming homeless. I'm going to lose my home, and I'm going to become homeless. And it was someone in the community who I knew. And the first thought that went through my mind was, I better go find you a practitioner. Because this is some serious stuff here. And then, of course, half a second later, it's like, oh, shoot, I am a practitioner. And then half a second later, it was like, oh, shoot, what do I do? And then a half a second later, it was like perfect God, perfect person, perfect being. Come, start with the truth. Because if I started with that, I would never get out of it. I would be like, oh, wow, we better... And I started with that truth, and I spoke that truth, and I prayed with that person. That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of the first two steps of our prayer. The first two steps of our prayer, the first one is oneness. God is, and there is nothing else. And God is whole, perfect, complete. Second step is, I am one with that. That is who I am. I am a divine expression of that perfection. That's what allows us not to get mired in a condition. We start from there, and then we begin to speak our word from that place. And so I spoke my word from that place, and I left the person, and I said, bless you. And of course, a couple days later, they said, oh, you wouldn't believe what happened. Such and such happened, and now I'm living in this place over here. Every time a person has ever come to me and said I'm about to become homeless, even though I've been a minister and a practitioner for a long time, I still go through those half seconds that I went through, except for the one about, oh, you better get a practitioner. I know now I am a minister. That one I got down. But I still go through, oh, wow, shoot, wow, this is serious. And then, oh, right, the truth. Let's start with the truth. And every time, there's not a single case where someone didn't come back very shortly and say, wow, you wouldn't believe what happened. Because we start with the truth. The reality is, I think, that all of us, on some level, have done that. Because all of us, whatever age we are in this room, all of us have made it to this point. And all of us have had all kinds and manner of situations and conditions and circumstances that would suggest that we weren't going to make it here. Something was going to derail us, right? We were going to become homeless, or we were going to lose our jobs, or we were going to have something happen. But we're all sitting right here. We're all sitting right here. We all made it through every situation you've had so far. You have made it through, and every situation you will have, you'll make it through. This is the divine order, the divine perfection of it all. This is the way it ought to be. Let's talk a little bit about the other side of this. When the condition in our life is showing up, and we just finished this class, Conscious Living, yesterday from a book called Conscious Living by Gay Hendricks, and he talks about how essentially everything is the way it ought to be right now, right? You've got a situation and you go, it shouldn't be this way. And it's like, yeah, it ought to be that way. That's exactly how it ought to be right now. It doesn't have to stay that way, But this is what we have called into our experience so far. Either we've called it to us unconsciously, we've called it to us consciously, or perhaps we've called it to ourselves superconsciously, meaning that higher intelligence within us at the soul level knew that this experience is the experience that we needed to have right now for our evolution. But one way or another, we called the experience to ourselves. This is how powerful we are. Part of the way of looking at this is that divine perfection exists at our center. Divine perfection exists at the center of all that is. And our job is to uncover it. Our job is not to create it. Our job is to uncover it. We like a gemstone, a beautiful gemstone that's covered in soot. Our job wouldn't be to make a beautiful gemstone. Our job would be to clean it off and clear off all that seems layered on top of this beautiful gemstone to reveal the truth of the beauty of this gemstone. That's what we're doing. Ernest Holmes said, there's nothing to be healed, only the truth to be revealed. So how can we bring the truth to the situation that you're working with in your life right now? How can we bring a greater truth? What's a greater truth about what you're working with right now in your life? What's a greater truth? A greater truth is that you are unlimited. You are unlimited in your abundance and prosperity. That's the greater truth. The situation, the circumstance, the condition might be that you're broke, right? The situation or circumstance might be that you don't know how you're going to pay your bills next week. That's the circumstance. But the truth is, you are unlimited and you have access to an unlimited source of abundance and prosperity. And the practice here is, how do we begin to live more in that truth and lead from that truth and move from that truth and live from that truth, as opposed to where the condition is what has all the power. We pay attention to the condition, but Ernest Holmes said we must be able to look a discordant fact in the face and deny its reality. Reality with a capital R. Deny that that is where the power is. Deny that that is where the truth is. So we start with this greater truth. And we say, well, the truth is, just like that gemstone. We know the gemstone is right there and its beauty is there, but right now, maybe it's been sitting in an attic for 5, 10, 20 years, and it's just covered in soot. We know the beautiful gemstone is there, and we're just cleaning and polishing, and we're clearing all this off to reveal this beautiful gemstone. So we know the spiritual truth is there. We know the spiritual truth is the greater reality of our lives. And ours is to reveal it, to call it forth. Ours is to begin to live in that awareness, to live in that truth, so that it now can be revealed and expressed and released, if you will, into our experience. That's the task. Here's this greater truth. I'm going to start living in that greater truth. I'm going to start knowing that greater truth, and I'm going to live with that truth even when the appearances are something else. When the clouds are in the sky and it's a very cloudy day, has the sun gone away? The sun has not gone anywhere. It's obscured by the clouds. When circumstances in life obscure the truth, the greater reality, the truth hasn't gone anywhere. So ours is to remember that the sun is still there. I feel a little depressed today because the clouds are all there, but I remember that the sun is still there. The sun is still there. So I feel a little sad about the circumstance I'm going through. I feel a little challenged by it, but the truth is still there. Just as we know without a shadow of a doubt that the sun is still there on a cloudy day, we can know that the truth is still the truth. God is still God. Divine perfection is still the reality at the center of me and all around me. Hallelujah. Amen. Yes. So I'm feeling on a practical level, it's like, how do we do this? How do we do this? Well, we have our daily practice. Do you spend some time each day getting still in meditation? That's the first step. Because those first two steps of the prayer I told you about, the piece about oneness and the piece about I am that's meditation. That's what happens in meditation. We come into awareness that I am one with the infinite presence of the divine. So every day we sit down in stillness, and it doesn't matter how long. Doesn't matter how long. 30 seconds? No, at least 1 minute. At least 1 minute. At least 1 minute. Sit down in silence. Be in touch with your breath. Be in touch that you are one with the infinite presence of the divine for 1 minute a day. And then if you want to continue in that practice, begin to declare for that day what your day is going to be. What kind of day do I choose to have today? You're not waiting to see what kind of day it's going to be today. What kind of day am I choosing to have today? And you begin to speak that ideally out loud if you can. Today is going to be a great day. Today I'm going to meet amazing people. Today I'm going to come into great expanded awareness of who I am and the truth of my being. Today, new ideas are going to unfold through me. Whatever it is that you're declaring for your day, declare that. There really is this immutable law of life, this immutable spiritual creative medium that really is creating our life so much based on what it is we're putting in. So can we do that consciously as opposed to unconsciously? Because if we don't do it consciously, then unconsciously, right, that thought that you have that's like, oh, another day, another dollar, all those unconscious thoughts, right, creep in and they begin to create the reality. I hear people say about Murphy's Law, right? Something goes wrong and they go, oh, Murphy's Law, something can go wrong, it will go wrong. And it's like, that's the place you're creating your life from. You're creating your life from Murphy's Law. Why not create it from a law that you make up? This is how my life turns out. When people would talk to my grandmother, I'm sure people would tell her, this is a dangerous neighborhood. You shouldn't be walking around. You this. And I know for my grandmother that she would have said, that's not the world that I live in. That's not my experience. We are creating our experience. So we sit down every day in stillness and connect to our divine source. We speak forth what it is in prayer or just in affirmatively speaking what it is we want to create. And then we have a practice of paying attention. Was it Emmett Fox that created the 7-day mental diet? I think it was Emmett Fox that created the 7-day mental diet. And the 7-day mental diet is a beautiful thing. It's very simple, but not easy. Because on the 7-day mental diet, and you could do it, you could take this up. I'm going to invite you to do it if you want to. Here's the 7-day mental diet. It's very simple. On the 7-day mental diet, for 7 days, you have nothing but positive thoughts. You go on a diet from negative thinking. So for 7 days, you only have positive thoughts. You only have thoughts that represent what you would want to create in your life. So if you're having a thought of how terrible someone is, then you're having a thought, it's like, oh, is that what you want to create in your life? Do you want to create this world where you're around terrible people? So you go, oh, I fell off the diet. Well, now you got 7 more days. So you have to go 7 straight days with all thoughts are positive and conducive to what you want to create in your life. And when you get through 7 days like that, you are transformed. You have renewed your mind, because it's going to take you most likely longer than 7 days. Unless you're really practiced, like me. Yes. I don't, because I don't want to be fighting anything in life. Some people, it's a great question, and it's a common thing in Science of Mind. People will have a negative thought and they go, cancel. And I don't want to become superstitious. I don't want to become like, wow, a single negative thought goes through my mind and everything's going to hell in a handbasket. So what I do, rather than say cancel, is I just smile at it. I just smile at it and I embrace it and I say, isn't that interesting? And then I very gently and very calmly say, oh, that's not at all what I'm choosing to experience. I'm choosing to experience this alternative. So how to close a talk like this here? The invitation really, one, would be to try the 7-day mental diet. It's a beautiful experience to try. Another would be to take that time every day, once a day, twice a day, 100 times a day. Maybe just live your whole life that way. Live your whole life where you are connected into spirit. And maybe live your whole life, or maybe just try it once a day first and then live your whole life, where every moment your thoughts, your attitude, your way of being, your way of showing up, which are all prayers, by the way. Those are all prayers. Your attitude, your thoughts, your way of being, your way of thinking are all prayers, that all of that would align with the experience and the world that you want to create. This is the power of a community like this right here. Knowing what we can create. What if we all were on the 7-day mental diet and we turned it into a 365-day mental diet, 24/7, and we really were living, and the only ways we were showing up in our feeling, in our being, in our thoughts, and all of that is the ways that we want to create the world. This is what we are doing here, and this is what we are practicing, and this is what we are learning, and we are creating, as the Centers for Spiritual Living have as their vision, we are creating a world that works for everyone, or a world where everyone is showing up in their spiritual magnificence. Thank you for all that you do and all that you are. Blessings. Thank you.